Suburban politician Tiffany Henyard appears to have lost control of both governments. Now she's teasing a big announcement that she claims will result in some of her opponents being arrested and charged.
Tiffany Henyard, self-described super mayor of Dodon, Illinois, is a name you may not know, but after today, you'll be hooked on her story. Henyard is currently embroiled in so much controversy it feels like a reality show, but it's all too real. She's under investigation by the FBI for corruption, facing eviction from her own home, and somehow still trying to have her political opponent arrested. Despite the scandals and legal troubles, Henyard is running for re-election. It's a wild narrative full of drama, with high stakes and an unpredictable future. You thought political scandals couldn't get crazier, think again.
Let's point the finger to Tiffany or allow me. I'm over it. Now it's time for me.
Let's dive into the recent events surrounding Tiffany Henyard, starting with the eviction saga. Despite being the mayor of a town earning hundreds of thousands annually, Henyard has failed to pay rent on a house she's been living in. She and her partner, Kamal Woods, owe thousands of dollars in back rent, even though she holds high-paying positions as both mayor and township supervisor. Janetta Hall, the property owner, is understandably frustrated. Hall had originally planned for someone else to rent the house, but when Henyard learned of this, she reportedly insisted on moving in instead. Now, Henyard and Woods haven't paid rent since August. It appears the drama began when Henyard muscled her way into Hall's rental property.
She leased to Mayor Tiffany Henyard has filed eviction papers. She says Henyard has not paid her rent, and now...
The situation with Tiffany Henyard has taken a shocking turn, as she allegedly went to extreme lengths to prevent her landlord, Janetta Hall, from accessing the property. Normally, Hall would provide a 48-hour notice to Henyard and her partner, Kamal Woods, to inspect the house. However, instead of complying with the request, Henyard reportedly took matters into her own hands in a way that raised eyebrows. Not only did she change the locks on the house, but she also altered the garage door code, effectively blocking Hall from entering the property. These actions seem to indicate that Henyard wasn't just refusing to allow the inspection. She was actively preventing Hall from fulfilling her responsibilities as a landlord. Hall, understandably frustrated and exasperated by the situation, has expressed feeling trapped, caught between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, she's facing resistance from Henyard and Woods, who are allegedly refusing to allow her to do her job. On the other hand, Hall has already taken steps to file for eviction, but the couple continues to dodge the official paperwork, making it more difficult for her to proceed with the necessary legal procedures, adding further complications. The local sheriff's office has been unable to serve the eviction papers, making the situation even more complex. Henyard's actions, which seem to go beyond mere defiance, appear to border on manipulation and obstruction. They paint a picture of a tenant who is actively playing games with her landlord, even as she holds a position of power in the process. Hall's inability to regain control of the situation and her mounting frustration highlight how difficult it has become for her to navigate the standoff what should have been a straightforward legal process. An eviction and property inspection has turned into a tense and unyielding battle. Henyard is reportedly playing a game of hide and seek, using her knowledge of property and her position to block any effort to resolve the issue. The complexity of the situation seems to be growing, as both sides find themselves in an impasse, with Hall desperate for a resolution, and Henyard seemingly bent on maintaining control.
Henyard's landlord, and she says she came to this Thornton Township meeting Tuesday night, hoping to get paid what she says she's...
The situation surrounding Tiffany Henyard and her boyfriend Kamal Woods has become increasingly baffling and frustrating, leaving many scratching their heads in disbelief. Despite the couple's substantial combined income of over $300,000 annually, they are refusing to pay an additional $200 in rent due to a property tax increase. This is not a case of financial hardship. Rather, Henyard and Woods have argued that the rent hike is beyond their financial means. Woods, who also earns considerable income as part of the Township program, has further supported this claim, adding to confusion and frustration surrounding the issue. For a couple with such a high combined income to balk at a relatively small rent increase is audacious, to say the least. Their refusal to pay comes at the direct expense of their landlord, Janetta Hall, who now finds herself at her wit's end. Hall has been forced to take drastic measures, hiring a process server to track down Henyard in hopes of getting her into court. This is a last-ditch effort. One Hall feels is necessary due to Henyard actively dodging the legal process. What makes the situation even more perplexing is the irony at play. As a mayor, Henyard is expected to set a positive example for the community, one of responsibility and accountability. Instead, Henyard seems to be doing the opposite, engaging in behavior that undermines her public position and leaves Hall in a nearly impossible situation. Hall, caught between frustration and disbelief, now regrets ever renting to Henyard, especially given the power dynamic at play, the audacity of Henyard and Woods to blatantly refuse to pay a small rent increase, despite making hundreds of thousands annually, only adds insult to injury. The situation has evolved into a legal nightmare, with Hall struggling to make any headway as Henyard and Woods continue to evade their responsibilities. This entire ordeal serves as a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, despite their high-paying jobs and public positions. Henyard and Woods are behaving in a manner that is anything but responsible. Hall's disbelief of the irony of the situation is palpable. She never could have anticipated facing such resistance from someone who holds a public office, especially in such a personal and financial matter. What should have been a straightforward issue of a rent increase has turned into a contentious and deeply frustrating battle.
Tonight, as another board meeting got canceled because of a lack of a quorum.
And that came after a disagreement about where to hold the meeting as trustees expressed concerns for their...
The situation surrounding Tiffany Henyard continues to grow more perplexing and controversial, with shocking developments that leave many questioning her judgment and leadership. One particular Amazon purchase on January 5th, 2023, left folks gasping in disbelief. A whopping $40,000 spent. And if that weren't enough, Henyard made 2 additional purchases that same day, one for nearly $5,000 and another for over $4,700. What on earth could she have been buying? These unnecessary expenditures seem all the more glaring when you consider that Henyard had unpaid checks, including a staggering $7,700 spent on Wayfair. This only adds to a mounting list of eyebrow-raising purchases. However, it's not just online shopping that has people frustrated. A report from September 2023 revealed that the village of Dalton issued over $6 million in checks to vendors, but those checks were printed and never sent. That's right, 589 checks just sitting there, unpaid. What makes this even worse is the fact that Dalton is drowning in debt, while local businesses and vendors are left in limbo, waiting for payments that may never arrive. How did the leadership of this town become so reckless with its finances? The lack of accountability and fiscal responsibility is staggering, and the situation doesn't end there. The town's police officers are also making headlines, but for all the wrong reasons. Some officers are raking in overtime pay that exceeds their annual salaries. One officer, whose salary is supposed to be $87,000, ended up making $114,900 in overtime. Another officer with a base salary of $73,515 made over $102,000 in overtime. It seems like everyone involved in Dalton's government is cashing in, while the town itself struggles to stay afloat. One can't help but wonder how the situation has been allowed to continue for so long despite all these allegations of mismanagement, corruption, and questionable spending. Tiffany Henyard is still determined to hold on to power. She has been in an ongoing standoff with the village trustees for months, lashing out at them and anyone else who dares question her authority. During one particularly heated public meeting, Henyard declared, "You all forget I'm the leader they want to hear." Mayor Henyard speaks out from the mayor. You haven't heard that. She seemed visibly annoyed by the trustees' denial of approval for bills that lack proper documentation. It's just getting to be redundant. We're getting tired of coming here, not having the laws followed, not having a meeting. The trustees, in turn, have been vocal about their distrust in Henyard's leadership. Trustee Jason House publicly stated that vendors are going unpaid because of the lack of transparency in Dalton's finances. He emphasized that the board simply cannot approve spending without knowing where the money is going. Meanwhile, Trustee Brittany Norwood blasted Henyard, saying, "How about you be a good leader and bring proposals to the forefront so not just us but residents and everyone else in America knows how the money is being spent." The tension between Henyard and the trustees is palpable and only continues to escalate. It seems clear that Henyard is more interested in a power and money grab than in working collaboratively with the board. And if you think Henyard is backing down, think again. Recently, she took to Facebook Live to address her critics and drop bombshell threats in a now infamous 90-minute tirade. In the video, Henyard promised to seek the arrest of her opponents, though she did not specify what charges she would bring against them. She accused her adversaries of being part of power and money grab and insisted that she was the true victim in all of this. All this pointing the finger at Tiffany. "You're lying on me. I'm over it now. It's time for me to speak," she declared during the live stream. Henyard's defiant tone makes it clear she's not going down without a fight. What makes the situation even more surreal is that, despite all the drama, Henyard is still actively campaigning for re-election. Yes, you heard that right. She wants another term, even while under investigation by the FBI, facing eviction, and embroiled in conflict with her own trustees. She's convinced that the residents of Dalton will stand by her. In a statement issued through her lawyer, Henyard expressed her commitment to continuing the fight for the village and declared that she believes she will receive overwhelming support in the next election. You've got to admire her confidence, if nothing else. Despite the growing controversy and legal battles, Henyard remains steadfast in her belief that she's the right person for the job, even as her leadership continues to spark frustration and disbelief. It's a bold stance, but whether it will earn her the support she claims is yet to be seen. One thing is certain. The drama surrounding Tiffany Henyard is far from over, and the people of Dalton are in for more twists and turns in the saga of their super mayor.
Showed up here to see her tenant in person after she says Henyard has been dodging both her and rent payments.
Tiffany Henyard's political career seems to be unraveling, and it's hard to understand how she could possibly expect to win back the trust of voters after so many scandals. One of her most vocal critics is Kana Belcher, a trustee running against Henyard for the mayor's seat, who doesn't hold back when discussing the current mayor's re-election bid. Belcher refers to Henyard's decision to run again as ridiculous, arguing that the community no longer wants to continue under her leadership. She points out the chaos Henyard has created in Dalton, with many residents feeling it's time for a change. The irony here is undeniable. Henyard, who claims to fight for the people, seems to be doing the exact opposite. Her lavish spending, particularly on extravagant parties featuring stars like R&B singer Kay, Michelle, and rapper Jay Holiday, has raised serious questions about her priorities. In addition to this, Henyard has been using local police officers as her personal security detail, an act that has sparked even more outrage among residents who are already frustrated with the rising crime rates. Officers have reportedly been pulled from their regular duties and assigned to follow Henyard around town, working excessive overtime. Some officers are logging more than 100 hours of overtime in a single paycheck, which is especially concerning for a community that feels increasingly unsafe at public meeting. Trustee Brittany Norwood didn't hold back, calling out Henyard's actions. We're not saying the police aren't doing their jobs. We're saying you're assigning all of them to be with you when they should be out here protecting the residents so we can all feel safe. This pointed criticism from Norwood highlights the growing frustration over Henyard's use of public resources for personal gain. Meanwhile, Henyard continues to show defiance in the face of mounting evidence that her leadership has been anything but effective. Whether it's her ongoing eviction saga, public feuds with trustees, or even the FBI investigation into her actions, Henyard's response has been one of stubbornness, insisting that she's the one being wronged. Her combative behavior has left the village in disarray, with the local finances in a state of near collapse and residents growing increasingly upset. But it's not just as mayor of Dalton where Henyard's spending habits have come under scrutiny. As supervisor of the Township, Henyard's financial management has drawn even more ire. Township records show that Henyard and her team racked up over $67,000 in travel expenses, with trips to Portland, Austin, Atlanta, and New York City. These trips included first-class flights and stays in luxury hotels, such as the Four Seasons in New York and the Marriott Marquis in Times Square, where they spent a jaw-dropping $133,000. Many are questioning how Henyard can justify such extravagant spending when Dalton is struggling financially. These out-of-touch spending habits have caused many disgruntled residents to compare Henyard to South American dictators, accusing her of turning Dalton into her personal playground. Her actions, whether it's throwing lavish parties, using the local police for her personal security, or spending taxpayer money on extravagant travel, paint a picture of a leader who seems far more interested in serving her own needs than the needs of her community. Henyard's behavior has become hard to ignore, and as more details about her spending and leadership come to light, it's becoming increasingly clear that she has lost touch with the people she is supposed to serve. While Dalton grapples with financial instability and rising crime rates, Henyard appears more concerned with promoting her own image and securing personal comfort. The longer this continues, the harder it will be for her to regain the trust of her constituents despite the mounting pressure and growing public frustration. Henyard remains defiant. She insists that she's a victim in all of this, blaming others for problems that have plagued Dalton under her leadership. However, as more residents and public figures point to her failures, the financial collapse, her mishandling of taxpayer funds, and her misuse of public resources, it's becoming harder to defend her actions. While Henyard refuses to take responsibility for the consequences of her decisions, residents of Dalton continue to demand change. The frustration is palpable, and the calls for new leadership are growing louder with each passing day. Henyard may insist that she's being wronged, but the evidence against her is mounting, and it's becoming clear that she has failed Dalton. Perhaps even more damning is Henyard's refusal to acknowledge the gravity of the situation. She seems to be in denial about the problems facing the town, focusing instead on defending herself and casting blame elsewhere. As the pressure mounts, it's increasingly difficult to see how Henyard can salvage her reputation, much less when the trust of the voters or residents of Dalton are fed up and they want to change. Henyard's time as mayor has been marked by one scandal after another, and with each new revelation, her grip on power weakens. Her financial missteps, extravagant spending, and failure to address critical issues have left many questioning her leadership abilities. Meanwhile, the town continues to struggle with rising crime and financial instability, further highlighting her inability to manage the needs of the community as Henyard's approval rating continues to plummet and new scandals emerge. The prospect of her retaining office seems increasingly unlikely. The town is in disarray, and the people of Dalton are no longer willing to overlook her flaws. The time for change has come, and Henyard's tenure as mayor may be nearing its end with each passing day. It becomes clearer that Henyard's leadership has been more about self-promotion and personal comfort than serving the community. Her lavish lifestyle and disregard for the needs of Dalton's residents have left many questioning whether she is fit to continue in office. The growing discontent among the people has made it clear that they no longer trust her to lead, and the pressure to find a new leader has never been more intense. It's hard to see how Henyard can recover from this. She's been under intense scrutiny for so long, and with each new scandal that emerges, her chances of regaining the trust of the community seem slimmer. Her behavior, from lavish spending to using public resources for personal gain, has alienated the very people she was elected to serve. And with crime rates continuing to rise and Dalton's finances in disarray, it's clear that the town needs a new direction as Henyard continues to campaign for re-election. The question on everyone's mind is whether she can realistically expect to win back the trust of the people. With the mounting evidence against her and the growing backlash from residents, it's hard to imagine how she could convince voters that she deserves another term. The pressure is mounting, and time is running out for Henyard to address the issues facing Dalton. It's becoming clear that her time as mayor may be coming to an end. The mounting scandals, her defiant attitude, and her refusal to take responsibility for her actions have made it difficult for her to maintain her position. The calls for change have never been louder, and the community is ready for new leadership. Henyard's grip on power is quickly slipping away, and the likelihood of her retaining office seems increasingly unlikely. To question now isn't whether Henyard will run again, but whether she can survive another election cycle with her reputation intact. The evidence of her mismanagement, the misuse of public resources, and the growing dissatisfaction with her leadership make it increasingly difficult for her to convince the people of Dalton that she deserves another term as her tenure continues to unravel. Henyard's political career is at a crossroads. Will she be able to turn things around and regain the trust of the people, or will she face a political collapse? The pressure is mounting, and time is running out for her to make a case for her re-election. One thing is certain. The residents of Dalton are no longer willing to support a mayor who has shown a blatant disregard for their well-being. The road ahead looks rocky for Henyard, and it remains to be seen whether she can salvage her political career. The mounting frustration in Dalton is palpable, and the calls for change are growing louder with each passing day. The residents of this town are tired of seeing their leadership embroiled in scandal after scandal, and they're ready for a new direction. Henyard's time as mayor may soon come to an end, and with the mounting evidence against her, it's hard to see how she can survive politically. The people of Dalton deserve better leadership, and they're making their voices heard. Henyard's grip on power is quickly fading, and the future of her political career seems increasingly uncertain. What do you think? Can someone who's been under such intense scrutiny really hope to win back the trust of the people? Or has Henyard's time as mayor finally come to an end? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe for more updates on this ongoing political saga. Thanks for watching.